Hi, welcome to Courageously You with Martha. Today we have an epic show planned for you. I am so excited that I actually was able to book this guest. Her name is Carrie Jeroslow, and she is an international best-selling author, 2 times over. Carrie,
Yay,
yay!
Martha! I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy. So I'm going to do a little bit more introduction of you. I'm going to have to read it just because, Carrie is an author, a conscious relationship coach, and an intuitive. She helps people go from heartbreak to soulmate. Heartbreak to soulmate. That is one magic gift you have there, Carrie. And she by sharing the steps that she had in her first book, Why Do They Always Break Up With Me? I wish I'd read that book, but it probably wasn't out 40 years ago. So she is featured in Thrive Global and Winston-Salem Journal and has been interviewed by Marianne Williamson, NBC, PBS, and the CW, and the List TV. She has recently co-authored her second book, A New Paradigm of Education, which became an international bestseller in seven countries. Carrie, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to talk about your topic, which is becoming your own number one soulmate. Tell me more about that.
Well, it's so in the mainstream that soulmate is another person.
Yeah.
And here's the secret to finding and maintaining fulfilling relationships is it's about cultivating the relationship with yourself, or as I like to say, creating a soulmate relationship with yourself. So knowing yourself as deeply and as soulfully as you would another person, because in that knowing of yourself, that's when you're able to really go out into the world and attract the kind of person that you would really want to be with or that you dream of being with.
Yeah. So when we first started talking about yourself as a soulmate, right, my mind was blown. I've been thinking about it, and just the thought of it and embracing it as a concept has started transforming how I look at things. So you say how it transforms your life. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So it's so important to know ourselves intimately. And I think that sometimes when you're just beginning on that path, it can be kind of scary because we're taught in the world to really like push things down and not look at the deepest, parts of ourselves. But when we can find that love, and that to me is what a soulmate relationship is. Soulmate is like a soul awareness, a soul remembering of another being. So the idea of soulmate is that, we are more than just our body. We are mind, body, spirit. And that soulmate connection comes in that spirit aspect of ourselves, the knowingness of our truth. And so it's important to do that with ourselves first, because from that we know who. So I'll give you an example. For me, I knew that I liked theater. I was in theater. I knew, lots of the surface aspects of myself. And yet I always created relationships with men who would cheat on me.
Oh.
And yeah. And it was because I wasn't willing to really get to know myself and love myself and accept myself on the deepest level. And when I finally did that, and that was after my divorce, I really realized where all of that was coming from and why I was attracting those kinds of people into my life. It was reflecting something that was very unhealed with my parents' relationship. It was like I was just repeating the same thing. But when I had the courage to go within and say, I want to know myself the deepest that I can. And I had help because it's scary, you know, to go like excavating, you know, on your own. You don't know what you're going to find.
Yeah.
And I found a place of like really loving myself and forgiving myself and honoring who I really was and all of myself. Like that was when I started to really make some headway to begin to cultivate that soulmate relationship with myself, that real honoring and loving and acknowledgement that I am more than just my body. I am spirit and I'm on this path of evolution.
Oh, we lost you for a second. I'm sorry. What was the last thing you said?
That I'm on this path of evolution, you know, that I am, you know, that I am evolving as a spirit.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
So what did it take for you to go in? Because I know our paths have some similarities. We've talked about that. But what did it take for you to go deep in? And how do you do that?
Like I said, that I needed help to do that. I needed some awareness of what was going on. The best way that I got awareness was to look at what was going on in my life. What was going on in my life was a snapshot of what was going on within me. So that's the first place to start, is to look at what is going on outside of me. And what I saw was that men were being dishonest with me. Men were cheating, you know, that's what I was experiencing. So somewhere that was unhealed within me. And that was where my first step was to look at that.
So how do you make the connection between what's going outside in the world, right? Men are cheating on me, to what's going on inside? That hurt, that thing that we have put so tight in a bag and stored somewhere in our body, and we don't ever take it out and look at it. What's your first step to doing that, to making that connection?
Well, I kind of always knew that my relationships were somehow influenced by my parents and what happened. And I think that that's always an interesting place to start. But it really wasn't until my divorce that I said, oh, this is not about healing my relationships with men. This is about healing my little girl that was hurt in that, you know, experience. So I always will, like in my coaching, I go back to childhood. What did we learn growing up? What did we see outside of ourselves? So what were we shown? Were we shown healthy relationships?
Or
were we shown dysfunctional relationships?
Nope. Yep.
Right?
That's the one.
Well, that's a really important thing. Like, this is a great example for me. I never saw my parents fight or argue until they were getting divorced. So in my mind, I correlated argument with divorce. And so every time, and you can't be in relationships without having disagreements. So every time I was in a relationship, or I was in my marriage and we got into an argument, I was terrified we were going to get divorced. And it was just like an automatic. And so I didn't speak my truth. I was terrified to. I didn't, you know, sit in the confidence of who I was and who I am and believe that that was okay. I just tried to make it okay and peaceful. So that's somehow how, like, that experience growing up influenced my marriage.
So same exact situation for me. My parents didn't argue, and once they did, it was over, right? That was that was it. So when my husband and I had our first argument, and I was a family lawyer at the time, Carrie. So when we had our first argument, I didn't not speak my truth. I went to the office and prepared all the divorce papers and gave it to him when he came home. And he's like, "What's this?" And I said, "Well, obviously we can't agree. So obviously we're getting divorced." That is what I truly believe people did. That is true. That is, if we fight, we're getting divorced. It's done. Right. And he looked at me, he's like, "No, we're going to resolve it." And I said, "What do you mean resolve it?" Right. And I know how to resolve things. I'm a trained mediator. I was like, "No, that's not what you do in marriage."
Right.
Fight. It's over.
Right. Because that's what you saw. And then, our unconscious mind growing up makes that correlation. Yeah. And that's what we try to unweave, is like all the little beliefs that were formed from just us as little children observing what's going on.
Yeah, I look at those as the survival skills we had to have at that time in order to survive and stay safe. And now they just don't serve us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fascinating. We have a little different take on kind of the same thing. I love that. I love that. So tell me more. Tell me another one.
Well, I would say a way to start to cultivate, just like any relationship, it takes time to get to know that person. Even if there's that soulmate recognition, it takes time. So having the patience with yourself to cultivate, again, I use that word cultivate a lot, but it is a cultivation process of having the patience to know that I may not know all of me right at any given time, that it is a remembering, a blossoming of the relationship and the knowledge of who I am. So one of the ways that I love people to start this relationship is to start a self-care practice, a daily self-care practice, and something that you get in your bones to do every single day. In fact, I have a program specifically to help people to do it. Now, when I started this 5 years ago, I was really busy, right? I had 2 little kids that we are very attached in our family. So it's not like, go play. It was like I was always a part of their day, every moment. And we don't have any family here. And then I had another business, and it was like I had no time for self-care. And what I found was that I was completely lost. I didn't know who I was. I was snapping at, everyone. I was frustrated and strung out, and I felt very lost. Now, I was an older mother, so I had spent, luckily, my first 38 years really understanding who I was. But in that 5 years, I had lost myself. And so I started a daily self-care practice that I was on my yoga mat, that was just mine, for at least 3 to 5 minutes every day. And finding the consistency of showing up every day. And I have a system that makes it really easy for people. That's when I started to get to know myself. And not only reacquaint myself, because I had changed. Being a mother changes you.
It does.
It's like, I can't go back to who I was in my early 30s, traveling around the world in theater. And I will never go back there. So who am I now with all of that history, and now being a parent and a business owner? So it's like I got to know myself again. And the thing is the beauty of life is about our path of evolution here in this body as Carrie. And so I hope to always be learning, so that daily self-care practice, I get to go on my mat today and say, who am I today? Who am I tomorrow? Who was I yesterday? And I get to follow that evolution.
So you're doing yoga while asking that question and just allowing the answer to flow?
Many times. And many times I just get on my mat because I'm going to show up every day and I'm thinking about a million other things. But in that time, what I feel like a self-care practice is it is a practice. It is a practice for the time that you need it. You know, for the time when like I'm barely hanging on, then I go to do what I've done for 300 other days because I just know that that's where I get clarity. And so then, yes, I ask the question, help me with this. What is going on? What is the deeper healing opportunity in this? And I go to my self-care practice, and that's where I get the answers.
I love that. So other examples of that, if people are like, yeah, I'm not doing yoga, Carrie, that isn't gonna happen. I'm not getting on the floor to do that. I actually love yoga. Pardon the little dog. He likes it when I'm doing yoga as well. Little dogs. So like meditation or journaling, the you know, just the sitting down and writing whatever comes out.
Absolutely. Meditation, journaling, but I guide my clients to think outside the box. What feeds your soul? That's what self-care is. Self-care should never be shoulds. It shouldn't be like, well, working out should be my self-care because it's good for me. No.
Yeah.
Right? Running, that would be like a no. I would not be happy in it. I'm not a runner. So that's how like some people look at yoga, right? But like even singing a song, singing or dancing, reading a book, listening to a podcast that stimulates your mind, reaching out to a friend, like a friend that really supports you and loves you. That could be self-care. Knitting, cooking.
My favorite was the podcast one. So if you're on, make sure you subscribe and like.
Yes, exactly.
That was my favorite. Actually, my favorite is we bought this house for the tree in the front yard. I love trees. I am so connected to trees. And I love to just go sit and look at the sun shining through these tree branches. It is really one of my happy places.
That is self-care. Like I go out and I live on a vineyard right now, and and it's dark. So the stars are beautiful. And sometimes I go out with my dog at night and I just kind of let him do his thing. And I just look up at the stars, stargazing. It brings perspective. It's like meditative, but it also feeds my spirit and soul. Like those are the kinds of self-care activities. And we can carve 3 minutes out of our day every day to fill our container just a little bit. And if we find that, oh, guess what? I've got an hour. I'm going to go on a hike, or I'm going to go on a longer walk, or I'm going to do something longer. Great. But we just want to show up a little bit every day, feel what it feels like to be successful with that. That's important reprogramming with our brain, because before that, I would never get to a yoga class. Be like, I don't have an hour and a half to go down just 10 minutes to the yoga, or I don't even have 30 minutes to do a YouTube. I don't have that. There's no way. And so I just wouldn't do it. And so I just feel worse and worse.
Yeah. So I love that. It's so key to building a habit or commitment, right? Is to make it small, make it so that it's doable. I got 3 minutes, right? No one can say I don't have 3 minutes. 3 minutes to do whatever it is that makes you happy. Listen to a song. I love that you don't have to say, okay, it's an hour and I'm going to do that every day, because that's overwhelming. I can't even start there.
There's no way. I would still be strung out and completely lost if I had to do that.
Right. I love that. I love that it's self-care. It starts with self-care, and it starts with a commitment to yourself, allowing yourself to be, right. And grounding or doing any of those things brings you kind of to your essential nature so that you can learn more about yourself, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
And
exactly.
that it doesn't have to be a time-consuming activity. It can be a snippet of your day, as long as you show up every day for yourself somehow.
Yes, exactly. And what I found is that like all the clients that I lead through, and this is why I have a program specifically for self-care, because, and I call it everyday self-care made easy. We want it to be easy and joyful.
We want it to
Right?
be easy and fun. And if it isn't, we're probably not going to do it.
Right.
Bottom line.
Right.
Bottom line. Yeah. I love that. Self-care made easy.
Mhm.
Love that. So tell me more about it, the program that you do.
Yeah, so the program is a 4-module program, and we go into defining what self-care is, how I look at it, how to make it very practical and easy. We also go into looking in what are the blocks that keep you from showing up every day. So I help you identify what those blocks are, what your excuses are, and how we can come up with solutions. And so that the idea is that you've got it all laid out. So when you say, I don't have any time today, you have something that is a solution that you're like, nope, I've got this right here, and this is going to take 2 minutes. And I can even do this in my bed as I'm going to sleep. You know, it's 11:45. That's my thinking that I help people. It's like 11:45. Oh God, I got to get in my self-care. What am I going to do before the clock strikes midnight? So we go over that, and then I help you come up with your plan and give you calendars to make your own calendar. And we also help you to come up with a minimum practice. That's kind of the key in my system, is a minimum practice, so that you have these minimum practices that you don't even have to think about. You're like, oh, I've got that breathing exercise I'm going to do. Oh, I've got 4 stretches that I can do. And I just know, and I do it. And even if your mind's not there, you still show up the next day.
I love that. So you said something, and I'm trying to remember what you said that tags something for me. And that's, whether you're going to show up. And that's, am I correct that that's showing up for yourself, right? That you're showing up for yourself and accountable to yourself. It's interesting. It wasn't until really recently that I realized that throughout my life, I've had, and maybe some of you, or maybe you have a similar experience, where I abandon myself. I have a habit of abandoning myself. And when I realized that was like, that hurts. And I know I did it because my mom abandoned me, or that's how I saw it, right? So it made it okay to abandon me and just not be present in my life when things got hard. I just checked out and let life flow. So is that kind of what you're talking about, is making sure that you're present for yourself at some point during the day?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that identifying what you just said, when you have the awareness, so like when we're on autopilot and we're just like, I'm just going to abandon this, I'm not going to do it. But when we have when we have that awareness of, oh, I abandoned myself because that's what my mom did, then we have a place where we can come to it with acknowledgement. Oh, I don't want to get on my mat right now because that abandonment thing is up. So I say hello to that, and I'm going to get on my mat anyway. But when you don't have the awareness of what's underneath it, it's just like, I don't know, I just don't feel like showing up. And then we start self-sabotaging. So coming up with those, coming up with those awarenesses is really important.
I love that. Yeah, it took me 60 years to come up to that awareness. So just so you know, y'all can do it faster.
That's why I am a huge proponent for a coach, someone who can help you understand these dynamics, because even though it's uncomfortable, if it's what our mind knows, we'll stay in it most of the time, because it's familiar. But that reprogramming is important.
Yeah. So I get so carried away talking to you all the time, Carrie, that I went over my break time. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. We are talking to Carrie Jeroslow, conscious relationship coach and author. Her website is www.carriejeroslow.com. This is Martha Davis Alexander. You can reach me at courageouslyoucoaching.com or at marthadalexander@gmail.com. And we are on the Going Solo Network, the #1 single radio show network in the universe. And we will be right back after these messages. Pay attention to the gems, dudes. They're really pretty.
If the world fades to black and white, well, I wouldn't mind, no, I would not cry, 'cause you are the rainbow in my sky. If the seas took us all away, well, I wouldn't mind, no, I would not pray if you are the ship sailing.
Yay! Welcome back, Carrie. I'm so excited to continue this conversation.
Me too.
We really do have such similar paths, and it is so fun and enlightening to hear how you approach things. So I can't wait to get back in. Martha Davis Alexander, this is Going Solo Network and Courageously You with Martha. I am your host, Martha, and I just totally blasted that one. That is awesome. We'll go back to Carrie now. I'm so excited to talk to you that I'm like, whatever I'm supposed to do, let's just do it. Let's go back to you.
Oh my God.
See, I'm okay with all that. And we were talking about making yourself your #1 soulmate and watch how it transforms your life. So I love that. So if you are your #1 soulmate, what changes in your life?
Everything. Everything changes, because when you do your own internal work, then you fall in love with yourself. You know, law of attraction, right? We hear it all the time, right? But what really is it? It's really about the vibration that's coming within you. It's not about like manifesting from a place of disconnect where it's just this vision, you know, out in the world of what I want. It's about the vibration and really substitute love that you have for yourself. And I'm not talking about an ego love, right? So that's another real like common misperception about like self-care, is that it's selfish. But really, when we authentically love ourselves and accept ourselves, it goes into the ego world when it is a false love, right? When we're like, I just should love myself. I just should love myself. But really, there's so much going on within there that we don't want to look at or we don't want to accept. But authentically loving ourselves is accepting, and this is the first step in my book and in my relationship program, is acceptance. acceptance of all the parts of yourself, like even the icky feelings, even the moments where I feel really upset and angry at my life, or that I am really feeling shame for whatever reason. Falling in love with those, learning how to accept it and love ourselves anyway, because really I believe that the outside world is a reflection of what is going on within me. I just watched this amazing Bruce Lipton video, and it's like the foundation of quantum physics, of that what I see in the world is what is going on within me. And that's actually stronger. My perception of myself and my experience is stronger than the fact of what is going on outside of us. So it really influences the way we see the world. So when we heal what's going on within us, that is where we literally, like I do this energy technique called Theta Healing, where it goes into the energy of the cells, because our actual cells hold memories and hold energy of memories. And I have myself experienced and seen other clients who we shift a belief and we shift an experience, and everything literally looks different in the world. So even up to, we have an interaction with someone that typically goes in one way, but the words don't come out of my mouth in that way. And so those are where the fundamental changes. So when we change the internal, it changes our external world. And we're taught the opposite.
Yes.
We're taught, like, if I change the person that I'm in relationship, if I change the job, if I do all of that, I will be happier. It is the other way around. And I have seen that change, because when I did my internal work, all the men that I was in several relationships after that, and all the men were very different, very different. In fact, there was one man I broke up with, which never had happened before. But it was just a very different experience because of my internal shift.
Yeah. So when you were talking about quantum physics and that, oh, we're not going to have time to cover this. Dang it, Carrie, we're going to have to come back. But I have talked to someone who had the experience that his clients, her brother and her boyfriend always were fighting at each other. And when she changed her view and her mindset of it, and that expectation that they would do that, they started getting along. And there was no change that happened to either of them. It was completely and totally within her that the change started.
That happened to me with my father. Exactly that. The divorce happened when I was 12. Up until I was 34 at my divorce, I blamed him for the men that I had attracted. Blame him. It's because of what he did, all of that. I did the internal healing, and he flew out to see me. And I remember this moment. We sat I read about it in my book. We sat in my car and had the conversation I always dreamed of having with him. Like, it was such a beautiful conversation, and it had nothing to do with, it had nothing to do with him and his changing. It was my change, because that's how energy works. He was plugging into my wounds. And that's what happens. It's actually beautiful when we step outside and we can look at our lives from more of a spiritual, perspective. But we attract these people that highlight the wounds that we're wanting to heal. And if we do that internal healing, then either they go away or the interaction shifts. I've seen it over and over and over again. I see it in all my clients all the time.
And that is so counter society, counter what we have been taught over and over and over again, right?
Yes.
So it's really, the first step really is yourself, right? Loving yourself. That is the step. There is no changing someone else. There is only changing you.
Right. And I'll say that, we're brought up to think that we're victims. and that it's harder to actually like take radical responsibility for whatever it is. Now, when I say radical responsibility, as a 12-year-old, I didn't have anything to do with my dad going off and having that affair. So it's not like that kind of like I was responsible for that in some reason. But when as a 36-year-old, 34-year-old, I looked at how that shaped my life and how that helped me to write my own book. And I became grateful with it. And I took responsibility. I took ownership of that experience and how it helped my life. That was when everything changed. And so it seems like it's harder in the beginning because it takes a lot of courage to look deep within, but it is the only way to create lasting change. Because otherwise, if I don't do the internal healing and I just think, oh, it's that guy's fault, or it's that guy's fault, or it's that guy's fault, I just create what happened in the first 34 years, men who weren't the kind of like partner that I wanted. So,
right.
Yeah.
So I love the distinction you just made because I've not heard it said that well before from anybody. So you're an amazing teacher. That radical responsibility or that accountability that you take on yourself. You're not responsible at 12 for what happened around you. But you are responsible as an adult for how you react and what you take in and how you choose to view it and heal from it.
Right. And
did I get that right?
Yes. And I'll add one piece to that. And that is that I view myself as an ever evolving spirit. Okay. So in my like full life journey of all that I am, which is so much more than this body, this experience has helped me to evolve. Now that piece was really important to me and really helped me. And, people go through their own journey with identification, like, who am I really? Am I just this body or am I more of this body? That's everyone's personal journey to go through. That really helped me, though, understand that there was something really important about that experience. One, in just the body, me as Carrie Jeroslow, I'll tell you that I was so much more of an independent person because of that experience. I made an oath to the world, like I'll never let a man support me, which only served me up until a point, but it really pushed me to be independent. Yeah. So of all of my brothers, I'm the youngest, I'm the girl. I moved away from home. I moved to New York City. I followed my dreams. I went into the arts. I got a job in the art. Like I did all of that stuff because of that experience. So, getting that realization helps to do healing and then get to know who I am.
Yeah, it all starts with self. All starts there. And I can't remember what I was going to say. So,
well, and I think that's really important. Like if you are, this is the Going Solo network. And when you're in that moment of being solo, I actually think that this is the best place to dig into, not so much who can I find or where can I go, but to really go. And that's why I love the idea of the soulmate relationship with self, to say, I am going to become my own soulmate. I am going to take this time that I am solo to really go within and know who I am. And then when the time is right, if I ever choose to, there are people who choose the relationship structure of solo amory. They want to be on their own. And that's beautiful. And when it comes from a place of healthy, like I'm healed, I feel good, and this is what I'm choosing, that's awesome. When it comes from a place of fear or the wounds, but I really want something else, that's where there's healing to be done.
That's beautiful. So last words for our audience, that if they are feeling a certain way, right, it's the time to go deep. What are your last thoughts for today?
It's the time to go deep. And I would say that you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do it alone. And I think, we think like I've got to figure it all out myself. But finding someone to help you, whether it is a friend that is positive, that will be there to listen, or a coach, or someone that can help you navigate this. And if you look at this time as an opportunity, instead of like, oh, shoot, I'm alone again, but as an opportunity to heal. all the challenging experiences in my life, when I adopted that belief that it is an opportunity for me to do some deep healing, it opened the doors for so much. And so that's what I would encourage people to look at it as an opportunity.
That's beautiful. Opportunity for growth, opportunity to learn more about yourself, opportunity to fall in love with yourself.
Yes.
Because really, who is it they're better to love you than yourself?
Yeah,
Who is it
absolutely.
better? This has been so amazing,
Mhm.
Carrie. I just adore you.
I adore
So
you.
again, our guest has been Carrie Jeroslow, and she is a conscious relationship coach and author. She has several programs. You can reach her at www.carriejeroslow.com.
And also, I was going to tell you that if you go on my website, I do have just a free guide to come up with a self-care. It doesn't go as deep as the program, but it is just a free guide to kind of help you start to develop a self-care practice, because I really do believe that's the foundation of this relationship with yourself.
That's fabulous. So you guys go out and grab that. I'm Martha Davis Alexander, and I have a Courageously You coaching. This has been Courageously You with Martha. You can reach me at marthadalexander@gmail.com, courageouslyoucoaching.com, or at 805-422-6865. I love getting emails from y'all and tell me what you want an episode to be on, or if there's a guest you want to see. And make sure you check out Carrie. The self-care is amazing. I just love that. Loving yourself. I love it. So you guys have a phenomenal week, and I will see you right back here next week on the Going Solo Network at 3:00 on Thursday, 3:00 Pacific time, 6:00 Eastern time. And if you're in Central time, never mind, I'm not going to do all that. It's 5:00 if you're Mountain time. It's 4:00. There you go. I think I've gotten everybody at least on this in this country. Everyone else, you're going to have to figure it out. All right. Love you guys. Have a great week. Love